Hail Media presents Blue Bloodlines, a generational journey through the eyes of Michigan athletes who proudly don the Block M. In this episode, we welcome John and Caden Kolesar.
Welcome to Hail Media and Blue Bloodlines. My name's John Kolesar. I was a wide receiver in 1985, 1988. I know that might make you old, but if you see the gray beard, you know that was quite a bit of time ago. Joining me today, and I have the pleasure of seeing him, but remotely, who just came off the practice field, is
Caden Kolesar, John's son. Played safety at Michigan from 2019 to 2023, and I was number 35.
Yeah, so we're going to have some fun today. I was number 40, and when Caden got into Michigan, Jim Harbaugh gave him the opportunity and gave him number 40. And I'm like, oh, man, let him make his own trail. I don't need to, number 40 this. Harb thought it was cool and quintessential, right, Caden? Something like he's like, would you feel like your dad, kind of thing. Because he gets a little hokey like that. So, which was fine and dandy. And so he had number 40. But the irony is Caden worked pretty hard during 2 days and got himself on the field and special teams, and they had an upperclassman who was wearing number 40. Remember who that was?
Ben Van Sumeren.
Yeah, Ben Van Sumeren, who's great player for us. And so he had to change his number. And so he got 35, which was fantastic because 35 is a cool number in general. Some great players wore 35, of which Donnie Dufek, late early 70s. Tom Darden as well, prior to him, played for the Cleveland Browns for a while. Chuck Winters, I think, for a little number 35 later. And then we did a little numerology on it because my dad played in the 50s, and his number was 75. Now, both Caden and I were not offensive linemen as he was. But if you subtract 40 from 75, you get 35. And we thought that was kind of neat. And maybe we'll get into Caden's buddy, who also wore number 35 in college, but we'll park that right here as we get along. But I guess we're going to ask some questions for Caden, and Caden's going to ask questions of me about our history and time at Michigan. So I guess, Caden, why don't you start off and ask away. We'll continue on with the discussion.
All right, Dad. So what was your welcome to Michigan football moment? Either the rude awakening or the moment that you knew you belonged?
Yeah, which one, right? So I remember I came in as a running back in 1985 in August, and I stayed in Ohio till the very last minute because I thought that's just the thing to do, enjoy yourself. And we enrolled for classes August 12th. Practice started a little bit before then, so I just waited. And all I know is that you did not get the type of class you wanted to get if you waited that long. So lesson number one, I could have took astronomy and anthrobiology and all these hard courses and ended up like with a horrible schedule. So that was rude awakening number one from an academic perspective. From an athletic perspective, since I was a running back, I was the only running back taken and ran every play on a two-platoon system, and I was just fried. And Terrell Burton was the coach at the time, and he had said, listen, Kolesar, you're making every mistake in the book, but the good thing about you haven't made the same mistake twice. So that was a rude awakening, and then the next day they moved me to wide receiver. So there you go, and the rest is history. So same thing, Caden. So you got a chance to play at the University of Michigan. This is something that you dreamt of as a kid, as I, and got the opportunity, and we get you there. Did you get there? I can't remember. We dropped you off in June, right? Yeah, we dropped you off like.
Yeah, it was like May 30th or something like that.
Right. So, what was your rude awakening? Again, you came from St. Ed, so people who don't know Ohio football, St. Edward's, Caden played, and they won a state championship his senior year, was a captain, and so a pretty disciplined and well-run program in its own right. So, what was your rude awakening going from Division I Ohio high school football to Division I football, University of Michigan?
Yeah, so I was no stranger to hard work or the dedication of a top-tier football program. Obviously, it's different going from high school to college. But I would say that probably the rude awakening, I have a couple. So the rude awakening, I would say, and it just popped into my mind as we were talking, we had these opportunity practices. So on Monday mornings, my freshman year, if you didn't play in the game, which early in the year I didn't play on special teams or on defense, Monday morning, 6 a.m., you got an hour basically scrimmage for the guys that didn't get to play, which is a great thing that Coach Harbaugh did during my whole time there, where guys who didn't play, they had a chance to shine and show the coaches what you got. But
at 6 a.m.
this morning.
At 6 a.m.? At 6 a.m.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. 6 a.m.
Yeah. So waking up in South Quad.
Full pad scrimmage, 6 a.m. Monday morning. Was he there?
Yes. Yeah. All the coaches were there. Everybody was there.
Okay.
We're waking up from South Quad at 5 a.m. and walking down, or maybe you're able to catch a ride from a guy who has a car, or maybe you get a scooter or something. And even in the winter, like we're doing it in November and it's 20 degrees in the morning. It was brutal. But I remember this one practice, I wasn't having a great practice, and I think I had a ball caught on me, and Don Brown, the defensive coordinator then, goes, "Kolesar, you're the weak link out there." I was just like, it's like insult to injury. I'm like, I already got the ball. Like, I know, I got the ball caught on me. I know. I haven't made a couple plays yet. So that's one of them right there. The second, I would say, is when I first got my playing time. And it was against Maryland, at Maryland, late in the year. And I was on kickoff return and punt return. It was the opening kickoff. Giles Jackson back to return. I'm in the front line of kickoff return. And they boot it, and we take it to the house. I make my block, and we take it to the house. My first ever play in college, take it to the house. I was like, this is crazy. Like, I cannot believe that this just happened. Turn around, punt return, I don't know, a few minutes later in the game. And my job is to basically hold the guy up in the core who's running down. And so I do a good job at the line, and I'm running down with him. The guy's a fifth-year senior. He's a transfer from Ohio State. I'm a freshman. I'm 19 years old. He's probably 22, 23. Much bigger, much stronger than me. But I'm doing a good job. I got my arm on him running down the field. I got good position. And then out of nowhere, like, this didn't happen in practice. Like, it's not the technique that we're taught or anything. Out of nowhere, he basically, like, headbutts me full on. And it was the hardest I had ever been hit up to that point. And I went, like, I don't even remember, like, falling to the ground. That's how fast I smacked on the ground. So, but I got right back up. So that's what matters. But so that's really, I had that first play touchdown, and then my second play was just getting absolutely destroyed by this guy. And I was like, all right, so I guess this is what college football is. It's not all touchdowns.
Yeah, well, it's interesting that I just hear that story for the first time just right now. This is what happens, parents, man. We don't hear the stories until like few years down the line. You get all the nitty gritty of it. So you probably were concussed. You know, your bell was rung, right, as we call it, and didn't go to the tent, and you get right back up and you get it back into the game. But probably lesson learned too. You know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that'd be that not going to get called either way. You know, as a targeting or a headbutt or unsportsmanlike, but probably should. Well, that's news to me, so I'm glad you're okay.
Yeah, and that play. So a lot of we would use plays from past seasons in teach tape and special teams meetings. That play, it was a teach tape for some other guy, or even like I think me and like Jordan Glasgow was to my right, and we both did a really good job at the line. So it was teach tape for that. But then the clip would keep playing, and you would see me just get killed by this guy. And like throughout my entire career, it would always be a clip that we would see during camp or whatever. And it was like, all right, guys, like I'm better than this now.
So that stayed with you through the 5 years that you were there.
Yeah, clip. It was a good reminder. It was a good reminder that I got to stay on my toes.
That's good. That's important.
Yeah.
So, but I remember that play. With the first play, my first play was also against Maryland as a Wolverine, as a receiver, which was ironic because your first play was against Maryland 30 years later. Oh, great. All right. So let's see. All right, it's up to you. Your turn.
Yeah. Did you ever feel pressure or a certain duty carrying our name on that jersey with your dad playing there?
Yeah, no, not at all. Again, he played in the 50s. You know, it's ironic because 1952 to 55 he played, and I played roughly 32 years later. You played roughly 30 years later, right?
Yeah.
And, kind of look at the orientation of time and space and everything else. And it felt so long ago, like in the 50s, like Kolesar. And my dad was an offensive lineman, so he didn't cross the goal line. So I think with my career being a receiver, you get some of that notoriety. And I think there's a certain responsibility that comes with it to make sure that, you are getting credit to the 10 other guys getting you across that goal line. And I find that, I just did my job, and my job, And these guys that go and herald it on the line of scrimmage. So, but a lot of my dad's teammates, and there's not too many left now. I think Tom Mentz is one I want to know that's there. He was captain of the 55 team, 56 team maybe. But a lot of my dad's teammates after the fact would remember, and he got a vibe from all of that. And I think, if anything, it was just the Michigan tradition in and of itself. As you well know, you had Michigan stuff in the house. I had Michigan stuff in the house. I still have the stuff in my house now that I grew up with, that Wolverine picture that they produced and Doc Canham signed and everything else. And I think it was just the honor to wear the maize and blue. Like I said, when I went there as a freshman, I just figured I'd be redshirted, get a chance maybe to play when I was older. And that all changed when Bo poked me in the chest and said, "I want to look at you, a wide receiver." And and ironically of that too, that whole story is interesting, because the summer leading up to going to school in August, how do you practice running? You don't practice running back other than lifting and running. You don't really practice against the defense. But that whole summer, I threw, or I was in passing and catching, pickup practices with the area guys that were going to different colleges, and I caught a football every day all summer long. And so that came in handy when they gave me the shot. I caught everything that day. Well, it was like, what it was a freshman came in, and we all were our assigned position, but there was a half. Well, that's right. You guys didn't have 2 days, which is crazy to me, because I'm always thinking we had 2 days, maybe more days. So we had 4 days before the veterans came in. And so the 4th day, the second practice that day, we switched positions. Most offensive guys went to defense, most defense went to offense, just for kicks and giggles. And that was the time when Bo said, "I'm looking at you, wide receiver." And so I remember, because I was the only running back, my hands were just fried. I mean, I was sore. I couldn't, but he put me out there and caught everything. And that's the rest of history from that perspective. And which probably was a good move, because I would say wasn't so much a wide receiver, but I call myself a wide blocker. And because of that running back mentality and being physical, that just helped opened up our offense, because they always had a threat. But as we well know, in your tenure at Michigan, running the football is paramount, and you got to have good downfield blocking.
Yep.
But yeah, part of it, even my dad, it was a great story for why he went to there. And some people might know that story. We'll get into that later. But then, for you to go, I mean, I probably asked that same question clearly. Like, so you get there and you have Kolesar on the back of your jersey at number 40, for that matter, for the first 2 games. How did that roll for you?
Yeah, so I mean, it's different for us in several different ways. One is, like, of course, Pa was an O-lineman, and you're a receiver that made some big plays, some famous plays in Michigan football history. One of Harbaugh's favorite receivers. And so I think my whole childhood growing up, I wanted to play at Michigan. And so I think I definitely did feel that pressure. And third generation, like, you got to continue the legacy, you know what I mean? Once I decided to play football, it was like Michigan football or bust, basically. And so I definitely felt it my whole childhood. And then I think, like, definitely my first, 2 to 3 years at Michigan, I felt it as well, because I felt like it was big shoes to fill, you know? And growing up and even at Michigan with some of your former teammates being on the staff, and just people all the time just seeing my last name saying, "Oh, Caden Kolesar, are you John's son? Are you related to John?"
That would have been, yes.
Yeah, still happens all the time.
Well, a lot of people,
and so,
but to counter that, a lot of people say, "Are you Caden's dad?" Yeah.
Well, yeah, but so I hear that all the time. I heard it all the time, and so it was always on my mind, you know, and it's a certain, like, it's not like you put pressure on me or anyone in our family put pressure on me. It was more so myself putting pressure on me to live up to the expectations that I set for myself, and to try to carry on the family tradition and the legacy. But after, I think, my first 2 to 3 years, and then, like, once I really started playing and, like, developing a role on the team, and just getting more snaps and getting more comfortable and more confident, I think that pressure definitely went away because I feel like I made my own name and my own mark. And I think, I mean, that was fine. I didn't feel bad about having that pressure. Like it didn't cause me any like anxiety or stress or anything like that. It was probably a good thing. It was a motivating factor to make my own name and make my own impact on the team.
Yeah, I think for the both of us, the way we were trained, and this is something that we can talk about. You're starting seeing this now in present day coaching about the standard, of how to play football. And certainly size and speed and strength and plays a part. But if you're not going to play the level to a standard that you represent, and talking about assignments, hard work, perseverance, attitude, you can have all the talent in the world, and you're not going to get to where you need to go. I think we had talked once in October in your freshman year. And I know that, the team, we had a couple of hiccups. Some of the personnel were having some challenges with. The team wasn't really what they wanted. Harbaugh was getting criticized and everything else. And you had called, and I said, how's it going? You said, Dad, he goes, we had more leadership at St. Ed. And I said, well, that's why you're there. And I kept on telling you that. I go, you got mad at me. You go, I can't say anything. I'm a freshman. I go, don't say nothing. Do. Yeah. Start winning the 40s and conditioning. Start showing the people who are the so-called stars and this and that and the guys who should be producing. Show them what you're about. Show them what the standard is. And I think you did that. I think some of the compliments that I got from your playing days were, people like to see you play. They always know that you were putting out the effort, and you were noticed, and you made your mark on special teams. People knew it. People saw it. And then clearly the special teams, you're, special team player of the special teams team of the year. And I think special teams for the last 5 years of your career kind of helped the whole program relative to the success that they had. So I was, from that perspective, that was always nice to see. And again, people were telling me, yo, you must be Caden's dad. Because some of the young folk, they don't know you. They're Michigan fans. And it's like, well, dude, that's 35 years ago, man. It's like, I got black and white still. I might be film, something like that. But yeah, that was always exciting for me to see that. And I think you did all that. And I think, it helped the program. And again, the legacy, is unique. I was talking to I went to the Michigan Oklahoma game this past weekend, and I met some Oklahoma guys, and the guy was like commenting that I played and stuff like that. And he was just saying that, hey, it takes something to play at that level. I don't care what you're doing, all the things that need to happen, and you experienced it, all your life, and to get there and to perform and to you lettered 5 years and stuff like that. I got there, I got to play 4 years. Was truly a gift, I think, because the experiences that I've had. And that's what I enjoyed watching you, because you put that helmet on and walk down that tunnel. I knew you were having as good a time as I was, and being in that, I guess, zone, right? That mental, physical, emotional zone that, unfortunately might not be, it's going to be unrivaled, because it's tough to get all three, when you're trying to close a deal to make your number for, a salesman of that sort. But nonetheless, it was a great. I was so proud of you for all the work that you did. I mean, it's incredible. And then for you guys to make that run as a team, and to see that team come together and play to the standard that we were taught. And again, it started with my dad. My dad played for Lee Tressel. And if everyone knows the last name Lee Tressel, they know that Jimmy Tressel was his dad. And so a lot of that comes together in a type of football that is successful. Coach Harbaugh, the same way. My teammate, his dad coached with Bo, coached with Woody and Dwight Perry and all these different things. So there's a lot of, Nick Saban, part of that whole tree. So the standard of success and how you exhibit it was something that I enjoyed, at least as a father. And then knowing as a player what that took, and I know it took a lot, and those are things that you have a lifetime of memories for sure.
Yeah, and as much pressure as there was just as much, if not more. It was more of an honor and a source of pride for me to be able to carry on the legacy, and also just wear the winged helmet and know how many greats have worn it before me, and just carry on that tradition and that standard and that legacy meant a lot.
we have a special thing. Got to keep it going. So I want to shift gears here. I want to see if Coach Harbaugh told any stories about us playing together, or I mean, probably had a couple, or of his playing days. I mean, obviously he had just a great career. What did he convey into that? Because I know I came in once to talk to the team, the championship season, and talk about the Ohio State rivalry. So, was there anything else that Harp would convey to you, or for that matter, Doug Mallory was on staff, so he was my roommate, and so I don't know if this is X-rated. We got to tone it out, but I think they keep it clean. But
yeah, I mean, I think Coach Harbaugh did a good job of not making me John's son, and making me Caden, like not just like I'm on the team because of my dad, So he never really said too much, or like, I don't know, he never said too much. He always just commented on your speed or your hands or your big playability, I would say. Just the things that everybody knows. And I don't know, Coach Mallory, it's also like you have that player-coach relationship, so you can't be like all buddy-buddy telling stories about what was going on in South Quad or in Rick's or whatever. So I don't know, not too much.
Good. Those they know about later. I might just shoot here and there. So
that's what I'm hoping for. As I get older, the curtain gets pulled back a little bit each year.
You spent some time with my high school teammate this weekend for the Browns game, right? So I don't know if you guys chit-chatted.
Nah, not as much.
All right. Well, you're up. What about?
I got a question. So did Bo ever tell you much about his interactions with Coach Oosterbaan and what Bo knew about your dad and your dad's era?
He didn't know anything because he was at Miami of Ohio. I was playing with Udi when my dad was playing up there, and he didn't know. I think he knew Oosterbaan because Oosterbaan was still around then when he became coach. But Bo was a historian of the game, so he told you stories about those guys. The Dwight Perry stuff, the Woody stuff, and people know this now, but Woody and Bo were best of friends, tremendous foes, but best of friends. And there's so many stories that I hear now around their relationship. The issue in 1978 when Woody got let go, he came up to Ann Arbor. Not a lot of people know that. There's stuff about Woody went down to Dayton to introduce Bo. Bo was getting some award the day before Woody died. And because he respected Bo and Bo respected Woody. So, as a student of the game, he'd bring that up. And that one of the where those who stay will be champions comment came from when he came up from Miami of Ohio. They just had a nail on the wall to hang your stuff, not like the facilities we have now. And he said, "Man, Fielding H. Yost hung his coat on this nail. You think you're better than Fielding H. Yost?" It was those things. So he was a student of the history of the game, and I think that's what he brought. And then, clearly the Michigan-Ohio State rivalry is impacted by those relationships between all the people who are a part of it. And again, you're from Ohio, Caden. Your best buddy you grew up with, and I tell the story because I love it. It brings the number 35 around. It's Tommy Eichenberg. So you and Tommy played together, went to school together up until 8th grade at Westlake, Ohio. And he gets it goes to St. Ignatius. You go to St. Ed's. You compete against each other. But then he gets an opportunity to go to Ohio State, and you're at Michigan. And he gets number 41 to start his career. He then makes special teams. There's a 41 already. He had to change his number to 35. So you guys, best buddies, still best buddies to this day. That Tommy's playing with the Raiders right now as a linebacker. And the fact that you guys wore number 35 it's just, for me, I think that's the coolest thing. To be best buddies and everything else. And, so it's those type of things that make Michigan special. And I think our family legacy is special because we bring that to the table, I think, from just all the people that helped get us there and all the history. And that's just the joy of that for sure. What is the so you got a chance playing a championship team. What did you see in the transformation? What finally took hold with the momentum that you guys needed to do to be as successful as you were those last 3 years of your career?
Yeah, so there are several factors. One is we got a new defensive staff. So Coach Mike McDonald came in. He's now the head coach of the Seahawks. He came in, young guy from the Ravens, brought in a whole new defensive system, the Ravens system, the Wink Martindale system, right? Not only that, like the defensive system, which helped our defense tremendously, but just his young energy and the coaches that came with that, the energy in the building shifted. And then the offense followed suit from the energy that the defense was given. And anyone who was part of that spring ball in 2021 will tell you, like, that was the most fun practices you've ever had in your entire life. Like, coming out of 2020, we were 2-4. It was a miserable season. Guys didn't like going to practice. Guys didn't enjoy football. It wasn't fun. And football, like, that's what it's supposed to be fun. It's a game. And so, like, that energy and another thing is Coach Harbaugh kind of let loose a little bit and let the players really have a role and a voice and be able to step up into these leadership roles. And we had the players that to do so. We had guys like Josh Ross, Aiden Hutchinson, Andrew Vistardis, just to name a few. And then other guys who weren't like the captains, didn't have their names in the paper, but everyone was leading and everyone was pushing the train in the same direction. That's a big thing that Coach Harbaugh used to say in team meetings. Like, everyone's got to be pushing the train in the same direction, and if you're not, then get off. And so just that young energy and the leadership that the players were able to take and just having fun playing football again. Like that spring ball, we were competing our asses off and we were having fun doing it. And that's what football's about. And so I think like just that shift in like that winter when Coach Mack was hired all the way up until the season, and it was just a totally different culture, totally different energy in the building, like full 180, different, having fun, competing, getting better. And then I think back to the Wisconsin game, playing at Wisconsin, our first road game of the year, and it was marked on our calendars like this is the first test of the year, like this is where we're going to see what we're made of. And at the start of the fourth quarter, when they do that jump around and we were jumping, we were dancing, and we were looking over to the Wisconsin sideline and they were not. And like, I think everyone on that sideline and every Michigan fan in the stands knew at that moment that something was different. Knew at that moment that like the Michigan football of the past 10 years is gone. The past 10, 15, 20 years is gone. Like, it's a new era, and it's going to be different from now on. And we felt that, and we took that momentum throughout the rest of that season. And then after that, it was just the standard, right? And everybody knew what the standard was, and it was upholding the standard. And if you weren't, you would get called out for it. The leadership and the accountability from player to player and from player to coach and from coach to player, like everyone was pushing in the same direction and everyone was on the same page and had the same goals. Everyone was aligned. That's something that Coach Mack used to say a lot. Everyone was aligned with their mission and their goals and how we are going to achieve that. And so, yeah, I mean, all that stuff played a big role, and there's definitely other factors too, but I think those are the main ones. But it was just a big energy shift, and you could feel it. It was tangible.
Yeah, I was at that game, and I think I coached you a handful of times along the way growing up, and remember that time you were playing maybe at Amherst or something like that, and you got tackled, and you got tackled on like hard dirt.
Yeah,
it hurt, and I walked out. Remember what I said to you? Remember?
You said something like, don't ever let them see you hurt.
Yeah. So body language, right? If you'd grab that and show them you were hurt, then that would kind of give them maybe, hey, this kid's hurt, give him more hope, give him, hey, let's hit him this way, hit him in that spot again. But that's the thing that I always look at. And I was even this game this past weekend, I was looking at the body language between the two teams in Oklahoma and Michigan. And that's like my first key on how this team, I don't care if you're better, I don't care if you're worse. Body language will tell you what type of game you're going to have. And you guys were just but jump around. That's the song, jump around. And that was Wisconsin's thing. And you took it over. And and you guys were, the game wasn't even in hand back then. I don't think.
No, I mean, I think we were up by 7 maybe, and then later in the year at Nebraska, we were losing, and they played Thunderstruck, and we did the same thing. It was about like a big thing that we talked about was the adversity, because in the past it seemed like whenever adversity hit, we folded, and we got down, and we started blaming each other and all that stuff. And so that was like a big point in that off season was like, let's attack it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about why we're getting down on ourselves when adversity hits, and let's fix it. And that was a huge thing during that season. Like, it didn't matter what was going on in the game. Our mindset was the same, and our energy was the same, and our attitude was the same, because that's what we could control. And so we just decided that like F the adversity, we're going to be the adversity.
Yeah, it was a joy to see it come together. And then for the 3 years, it came together, and obviously it resulted in a national championship, and all the things need to go right for that. And even the losses, I mean, you guys learned a lesson against Georgia that first year, but built on that to the next year, and then it culminated in a national championship. So, that I do remember that jump around, and I was just marveled with it, and just to see it right before your eyes. But I think it took those bumps and bruises in 2019, and then 2020. I was fortunate to be one of 500 people to watch all the games. It was an odd experience being in Michigan Stadium with 500 people, and I would watch these teams come out, even your team. Just, where's the people? It was like a practice. And I said, listen, you've got to love to play the game with nobody in the stands. If you need people in the stands to play, you're not a true football player. But I think, because a lot of these guys were used to that and needed that support from the fans, that contributed to the demise of the 2020 season. But to see that that was probably needed to happen to get knocked in the face a little bit, and have that season that you did. And that was awful. You guys got tested every day, right? Wasn't a swab in your nose every day or something?
Yeah, every morning at like 7 a.m. or something like that.
Nobody was on campus, and the whole history of that was just awful. So, all right, well, let's keep on rolling here. That was a good segue into the championship. But my turn, your turn? My turn.
I'll ask a question. What are your early memories learning about Michigan football from your dad growing up in Ohio? And did you know when you had me, like, how you were going to raise me, like, in concerning Michigan football?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, when I grew up, we didn't have YouTube. We didn't have all the things that even the paraphernalia, even the swag. Don Canham was one of the leaders, the forefathers of collegiate licensing, of all the things that you see, the cozies, the hats, the seat cushions, the pennants, the banners. That stuff didn't happen before 1970. And so the few things that we had at the house was that, like I said, that Michigan Wolverine painting by R. Dorman, I believe his name was. Bo signed it, and we had it in the living room, and I used to stare at that thing the whole time. Michigan wasn't on TV twice a year, because it was like, TV wasn't like it was today. And even in the 80s when I played, we had a few 1 o'clock kickoffs. We were not on TV every year, every game. But the game that was on was the Michigan-Ohio State game. Outside of that, we listened to Bob Ufer. A lot of times I remember washing the car on Saturday afternoon. We'd have Bob Ufer, Michigan football on the radio. That's what I remember from that. And then when Michigan-Ohio State played, I do remember, like, I think my first, how you had the student, I think you did this too, by the way, school pictures. I think 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, I had a Michigan shirt on of some sort. So yeah. By the time I was 9 or 10, it was a little more cognizant to me that I was a Michigan fan. People knew we were Michigan people in our school. I remember that, but I also remember, and this is ironic how it comes full circle, when Michigan was behind in the 70s. It's not like we'd have RPO and hurry up 2-minute offense like you have today. They ran the football. So, choose up the clock. So if you're behind more than 2 touchdowns, it's done. I mean, you're not coming back. And I remember a lot of times at halftime, if we were losing, I'd be praying in the bathroom. That little blue bathroom downstairs.
Yeah.
I would just be praying, how do they come back out? Oddly enough, I'm part of that comeback, but now we're throwing the ball. So, those were the things that, I always dreamt to do. And it's just the magic of the winged helmet and the fight song and all that stuff. And I don't think really went to. I think your uncle Scott, my brother Scott, he went to more games than I did. But I think my first game was in 1978. Played Purdue. We actually had a neighbor who was playing for Purdue, Dale Schwann, who was all big guard, but he played at Westlake. So we watched him play. And Mark Herman, I think, was quarterback back then. And that's when I started going to be able to go to games and stuff like that. But up until then, there wasn't a whole lot of Michigan. And my dad never pushed us, never pushed me. I think Uncle Doug was a better athlete of the family. And I had straight line speed, and, I was athletic to a point. But Uncle Doug had more ball skills and stuff like that. And, he went to all the camps. By the time I came around, there wasn't much money for that. So I didn't go to any camps until the Michigan camp my senior year, only because Gary Moeller called, says, "Hey, you coming to our camp?" I said, "Okay, yeah." And I hung up with him, and I had to go to my dad. Like, Coach Moeller called, said, asked me if going to camp, and I didn't say anything. And I said, "Yeah, I think we can do, but it costs $500." And we didn't have $500 to pay me to go to football camp, and that was overnight camp. And so Mo came up with an idea, said, "Well, why don't you be a day camper?" And so I drove up, and we stayed with a friend of ours who was going to school there. I stayed at their house, and I became a day camper at that camp. And basically, those camps are now, right? You're trying out. They want to weigh you, measure you, time you, do all the things to you, see if you're worthy of coming to school there. And when I ran a 4.3, that's what happened. And I was, and I was in Bo's office that afternoon. And the rest is history. But outside of that, those are things that I remember, as a kid being a Michigan fan growing up. But Dad didn't push us. He did. I will say this though. He always got us the best shoes. And I always say the shoe don't make the man makes the shoe. But somehow we'd buy the Nike Barracudas, which were, $120 in 1982, which is probably $300 equivalent today.
Yeah.
And we have the best shoes. And he made it happen somehow. But those are things that, as an athlete in those days, it was different, right? Now it's, you got to play all these sports. That's the only thing I was balancing with you, because, you're a soccer guy, and you can tell the people about your soccer experience. And I'm like, hey, that's what you want to go. I'm going to support you. I'm going to make the best damn soccer player you're going to be. And that's what all your friends are doing and everything else. And, those are the things that changed. And you might want to tell that story on how you made your decision to be a football player.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so I was a big soccer guy when I was little, up until second grade, third grade. But at recess, we would play soccer, we'd play football, we'd play basketball, whatever. And a bunch of my buddies played football, Tommy being one of them. And one day we're at recess, it's winter, it's probably January, February, something like that. And it's cold, it's snowing, we're all wearing our jackets. And it's a tight game. It's a tight game playing football on the blacktop.
There's snow on the blacktop?
I think so. Yes, there was snow.
That helps when you
There was snow, and it was snowing a little bit too. But I remember the recess aides, they tell us it's 5 minutes left in recess. And we're like, okay, we gotta score. This is a tight game. We gotta make some plays. And Tommy's the quarterback of the other team. I'm on defense, and we know it's coming down to the wire. They're about to blow the whistle for us to go into school for the end of recess. And I'm guarding the tallest guy out playing. I'm guarding him, and
Kevin Walls.
Yes, his name was Kevin Walls. He ended up playing at Akron. Okay. And so I ended up intercepting Tommy, taking it back to the house for a touchdown. We win the game. Everybody crowd. This is how I remember it. I mean, it might be a little different, but everybody crowds around me and cheering because we won.
We'll have to get Tommy to get his perspective.
I know. Yeah, he probably doesn't remember. It was such a formative experience for me, but for everyone else, it was just Tuesday at recess or whatever it was. But so I pick him off, and it's the best feeling I ever had. I remember I came home, and I think I told you and Mom that it was the best thing ever. I want to play football, and I remember I told you that I read Tommy's eyes. I read his eyes. I was a DB, and I read his eyes, and I picked it off. And because we had gone to a Michigan game previously that year, and you were telling me about a DB that picked off a quarterback in the game and he read his eyes. So yeah, I mean, that's just how I started playing football, just having that feeling. And I mean, that just describes my experience playing football. It's just like you get those feelings that it's better than anything else you've ever experienced. And then I had to quit soccer. So you made me go up to my coach,
that's the
my
story
soccer
I
coach.
tell people. Like, you were playing,
Yeah.
you liked the football thing, but you had soccer practice the next day. And you said, I want to be done playing soccer. And what the rule is, man, you got to finish what you start. And you do not want it. I said, well, what did I tell you how to do?
Yeah, I had to go tell the coach I was done playing soccer by myself in person. And I'm 9 years old, 8 years old. I did not want to. We probably sat. I don't know how long we sat in the car for because I was procrastinating. I didn't want to do it.
You gotta. You be a man about it. You got to go up and tell them, and that's what you want to do. You want to commit to it. You got to be a man. Eyeball that guy. And you remember the coach's name?
I don't remember his name now.
Yeah, he was. I remember you came back and he was trying to convince you. He was persuading you.
Yeah, he was disappointed for sure that I was choosing football.
Yeah.
It made it harder for me. I was hoping that he was just gonna be like, "All right, cool." No, I had to be like, "No, I'm playing football. I'm not playing soccer anymore."
Still one of the hardest things you had to do in your life so far.
For sure, yeah. Relatively, you know.
But reading Tommy's eyes, I think that's key. He probably won't remember it that way because he'll probably think it. Yeah, that was my fifth touchdown today.
Right.
But again, that's a testament to your relationship with him and being buddies and how you were competitive against each other.
Yeah.
Likely never playing on the same team except that one all-star team in sixth grade, because everybody would pick you and then they would pick him, or they would pick him and they would pick you in the draft. And you guys never able to be on the same team. And then you pick different schools, even though you both had the opportunity to pick the same school.
Yeah. In college too. He could have gone to Michigan.
Yeah. And I know that I was talking to Coach Harbaugh about that. When you got the thing, I said, hey, he goes, can we get Eichenberg? And I said, well, Coach, it's a little bit late here, but I did make the call.
Yeah.
I think I said, hey, why don't you give Michigan a shot? It'd be really great, but I think Tommy was locked in at that point. So, well, I like this one. This has been asked of me and maybe of you. And the question is, can you cover me? or can I be covered by you? Or can I break a route? I don't know, all things being equal. I'm 30 years older than you are, so maybe you have a hand on it now. So I don't know. What do you think?
Right now I would like to think that you're 50 whatever. I would like to think that yes, right now I would be able to. But like at both of our primes, I'll be like, you had the 4.3 speed. I was low 4.5s at my best. So maybe on a streak on a 9 route, you would be able to outrun me for sure. But I think that my quickness is probably a little better. So anything other than that, anything other than a deep route, I think I'd be good.
That's true. If I recall, you ran a sub 4 5.10 5 shuttle, right?
Yeah.
And that was one of the best marks in the country. Oh, that's the one thing. You come into Michigan as a safety with Dax Hill, 5-star at Oklahoma. He's the fastest safety in the country time. You're the quickest safety in the country.
Yeah.
ESPN. So that was kind of ironic. But yeah, you were quick. So I would bet that I think that because we were, I think, more tough, that we'd be scrapping at the line of scrimmage. And if you get older, which would diffuse my speed, that would be the only thing you can do.
Yeah, I would have to get some hands on you for sure. I'd have to stay in front and stay square.
Yeah, if you had technique, that would stifle me, and that would nullify my speed.
Yeah. What about blocking? I don't know if you could block me.
I don't know. I would collide. I would just because I would think you're going for a route, like running by you, but I just run into you like that dude from Maryland.
Right.
Edge or something like that. We'll never know.
It'd be good competition.
Well, we'll never know, and probably good that I think I stopped running against you. Like I would run, as an adult. Like I think up until maybe 6th grade or 7th grade. Like, as far as me kind of working out with you guys or running, I'm like, dude, I'm going to blow an Achilles. But I think up until then, I was like, all right, I'm done with the running part. But you were, and you're right, you were fleet of foot. Anyone in the 4.5s and lower, that stuff won't really matter because you have technique and things like that. So.
Yeah. In the same vein, this is one I'm interested in. When you watched me play, did you see any of your traits in me? Because I think we were different. We were very different players and had different skill sets. But I'm interested if you saw any of you in me.
I think what I did see was the spying. So it's the pre-snap readiness. So how you would kind of drop your arms a little bit and then kind of like, be looking and you're peering and you're doing some of those things because you're trying to get into a pre-snap position or trying to elude what those guys the coverage you're in. And so I thought I saw some of that. Also, I saw some of your warm-up superstitions.
Yeah.
You came out and warmed up. You did a lot of the warm-up stuff. Whatever. It was different than mine, but it was superstition nonetheless of the consistency of it. And I knew, you put your helmet on, put it on the 30-yard line, was it? Or 35, I don't know what it was.
Something, yeah, 30 maybe.
You would do the same thing, and you do your whole routine, and you'd be out there and doing all that. I had a similar kind of track. Yeah, and the fact that you were defense and I was offense, it's kind of hard to compare, positions, stuff like that. But I do know, I remember the Wisconsin game we brought up earlier about you, somebody got hurt, or maybe it was Brad Hawkins got banged up.
Yeah.
And you ran in second quarter in the thick of things and made a play. I think at the end of the day, that's what I like to remember as you make the play, make a play. You got an opportunity, you make the play. And I think in those situations, I think you did in a lot of games. So those are things that I think are comparable. How about you? Did you? Well, you can't say you don't watch it, but like anything you picked up from me that you brought into a game, or I guess we could tell these people. I used to send you little notes during the week and stuff like that. The one thing I was mad about though is when you're doing the punt returns against Washington, and I said, "Hey man, that's a night game coming up. Are you practicing your punts at night?" And I go, "You got it. Have you ever caught a punt at night?" It's like it's a different thing. And you said no. I think right.
Yeah.
But did you do anything? The things that I sent, were they helpful? Was it too much? Was it it's just what the coach speak stuff? Or was there anything that was that was helpful? I guess that's I mean out there when you talk to your kids. Do what you say, bounce off them, or do they actually listen and it work?
Right. Well, I mean, there's so many things said. There's gonna be things in both buckets, and also like you coached me my entire life, so like obviously like a lot of the way I played was because of how you coached me and like things that I focused on and like stance. Number one, you always told me like stance is your first thing. You gotta be in a good stance. You gotta be in a good athletic stance. And so like my whole life I was like, all right, gotta get in a good stance. Like this is important. So I mean like things like that for sure. Like and I always read all those messages that you sent me with all your tips and quotes and all that stuff. So yeah, I mean, definitely there was some stuff where I'm like, all right, Dad, I know, I get it. But some of the stuff for sure, I was like, yeah, that's good. This is a good coaching point or good advice or whatever. Yeah.
Good. But to all the fathers out there, it does work. Just keep at it. Something will stick down the line.
Yeah, right.
Let's go up on the hill. What was your favorite place on campus?
My favorite place on campus, it's gotta be the ARB.
Just the peacefulness of the ARB, or the fact that it was a tenuous workout in the wintertime? Like what about everything. Like I was able to, if I was bored one day, I could just walk over the 20-30-minute walk from where I lived and just like hang out, sit down, walk like the trails throughout like the woods basically, and then also those workouts during COVID, my roommates and I would go there because we couldn't go to the facility because sometimes we were like quarantined or whatever, and so we would run the snowy hills or the snowy stairs at the ARB for our workout, and those were always some great workouts, a little Rocky-esque. Yeah, that was awesome. You got a couple of videos that you sent, and that was great. Never got up to the ARB very much, maybe because it was too far to walk. Where I went was Lawquad. But I enjoyed studying and focusing and trying to get some peace there within the law quad. And usually, if I needed something done or I had to really study and be focused, I'd go down to the third floor below the law library, like underground. You needed a key card to get back there, but I would like jump over the rail or something like that to get in. And I would find this little like cubby or desk that nobody would find me. And it'd be silent. That's where I would just, because the law quad became a little social too. It would open the door there. But that was the place where I got my peace, just because the history there and how beautiful that building was.
Yeah, that's funny because you never spent much time in the ARB, and I never spent much time in the law quad, like actually in the buildings. I would go to the quad outside and sit outside, but I don't think during my time at Michigan, while I was a student at Michigan, I don't think I went into the law library one time.
Wow, that's significant. I mean, I might have been in the ARB one time, so maybe. There you go.
I mean, I always preferred to study at my house. Like if I got some time, if I got some extra time after practice or whatever, I'm gonna be in the comfort of my own home.
Yeah, you guys with the AirPods and the Macs and everything. We didn't have any of that stuff back then. So
right.
We had to use that. All right. Well, what of all the plays you mentioned, the Maryland play, first play, what was your favorite play of your career?
It's a tough one because there are some that there's some big plays, there are some like meaningful plays that happen in big games, but there are also some that like are just meaningful to me because of like the context. One that comes to mind is it was game 1 in 2021 junior year against Western Michigan. Like it didn't matter anything at all, and it was one of the kickoffs, and I ran down, I totally smoked my man and made the tackle at like the 10-yard line. And it was like the first big play that I made, and it was in the big house. And I just remember being so like excited, and like it was like my freshman year, sophomore year. I played 3 games freshman year. I think I played in all the games during COVID, but I didn't play on all 4 phases of special teams until my junior year. And that was when I really like made a name for myself and like established myself on the team. And so like that was kind of like the first play that I thought I made. I had a tackle during COVID, and made a couple other plays, I think, but that was the first like big play I had made where like the crowd erupted and my teammates are cheering, and like I made a nice tackle on this guy at the 10-yard line. So that, I don't know if that's my favorite, but it's the one that comes to mind where I'm like, yeah, that was nice. And it was kind of like the start of everything of those 3 years.
Yeah, I think one of Angelique Singelis's colleagues caught a picture of that. It's at the one where you're coming up with fist and the
yeah.
Yeah, that was good. That was a good one. I like that. That's awesome. I know I've told the story before, but people always ask me, similar question, that catch against Ohio State, the other catch against Ohio State or Alabama or this, that, and everything. I said, my very first play was against South Carolina. So I got to start at Maryland as wide receiver, but we are playing South Carolina the week before, second game of the season, my freshman year. And leading up to that game, I was third wide receiver. Eric Campbell, who's on the staff now, my teammate, was the first team flanker. And Cavani Johnson was second, and I was third. And Soup gets hurt against Notre Dame the first game. And as an 18-year-old snot-nosed freshman, I'm standing next to Bo about to run plays against Notre Dame in 1985. I did not play in that game. And the next game we play South Carolina. Now I'm ready. Like, okay, I might get into some plays, probably some blocking plays, not too sophisticated. I'm ready. And we go in, we go out, we go in, we go out. We go out for the last time, take the field for the start of the game. And Bo puts his finger in my chest. You're going out on kick returns. What are you talking about? Now, I practice kick returns and punt returns and all those things, and I'm one of the 7 or 8 guys that can do it on the team. And that was the game, again, with how we weren't on TV all the time, but that was the ABC afternoon game, the marquee game. And I remember Jamie Morris was with me in the back, and it was his sophomore year. He had some experience, and he was the primary. So kind of scouted that the ball's going to kick to the right. And then my job was to basically kick out the last kid Ronnie, number 15, I remember it was. And I annihilated him into the sideline. The sides kind of dove block him, you know, but it got him enough to that he got into the sideline. I remember Mike Gilson comes and grabs me and picks me up, and nobody knows. It's probably not even on the tape because it got out of the 22. And that was my favorite play because it was the first play. I was, wasn't ready for it. I was mentally not prepared. And I asked Bo about that later, somewhere along my line. So why didn't you tell me to go punts or kick that day? Well, I wanted you to get a good night's rest. If I had told you the night before, you might not get a good night's sleep. So I wanted to, and he's probably right, from that perspective. Which leads me to this next question. You had an opportunity, and I always told you this. I said, oh, hey, always catch some punts. You never know. You're defensive, you're safety. You might not be there in safe punt. It might be a good thing to do. Catch some punts. So I think it was 21. Was it 21?
Yeah.
Western Michigan. Again, that game, we lose. Who's doing
Ronnie?
We lose Ronnie Bell. Yeah, we lose Ronnie Bell on the punt return. And you told me leading up that you're number 2 on punt. And Coach Jay was the special teams coordinator at the same time. So I'm watching it, and I'm like, am I going to put Caden? Is he legit? Is he number 2? And sure enough, announcer, and it gets all quiet in Michigan State. This is for folks who are at home. I don't care what everybody says. Punt return is the hardest position up there, bar none, 100%. Period.
Agreed.
You got 10 guys coming down, knocking it off. You got to catch that ball. Perilous situation every time, no matter what it is. And it's kicked 100 foot in the air. 100,000 people looking at you. You're the only one there. And and not only lead up to it, it's usually after a timeout or there's an exchange, it's time. He goes back there with the back judge talking about the day. And then the announcer says, Caden is back for Michigan. How you felt that moment?
I mean, so obviously, first of all, I never expected to be a punt returner at Michigan. And I'm sure the coaches never expected me to be the punt returner at Michigan. But I don't know how I started, how they wanted, just because I was kind of like the special teams guy, and it was good for me to know how to catch the punt. And so I was catching them during that summer, and I was the most consistent out of anyone catching them in practice. And so Ronnie goes down, and right when he goes down, that's my first thought. All right, I'm punt returning now. And yeah, I do remember that, when they say back teep to return, Caden Kolesar, and it's quiet.
What? You can hear a pin
quiet. Yeah. And you're the only one back there, and you're like, all right, I got to catch this ball. Yeah, it's just I was so nervous, and just being honest, I was nervous, and I definitely wasn't as prepared as I should have been or could have been. I definitely could have caught more balls, and I caught a lot of balls that summer. But just getting game ready and visualizing it, I definitely was not as prepared. It's kind of the one thing in my career that I look back on and I'm like, I could have done more. Not necessarily regret, but similar to that. But then the next week Ronnie's out. Ronnie tore his ACL. I'm the starting punt returner. The next week it's at Washington, like you said earlier. It's a night game. It's on ABC, and it's our coming out party as a team. Basically, it's our first big game of the year. And I'm the starting punt returner for that game, and it's a night game. We're spending the whole day in the hotel. And yeah, I have to think about. That's what I'm thinking about all day in the hotel. You're supposed to get up at 10 o'clock, get some breakfast, go hang out in your room, chill out, take a nap, whatever. I'm in my bed, not able to take a nap, not able to relax because my heart's beating out of my chest because I got to return punts later. And because in the Western Michigan game, I let the ball fly over my head, partly because I was in bad. I'm not blaming it on the coaches. I'm blaming it on myself as well. But I was not in a good position to receive the ball. It went over my head every time. 10 yards. That's never a good position to be in as a returner, to sprint back 10 yards every time you have to catch the ball. But yeah, I definitely was not ready. But I watched and I caught a couple, which was okay. But then I was out for the second half. Put AJ Henning in, which I was fine with. Put me back in the core. Let me rush the punt.
Yeah. Well, the number one rule is catch the ball. Don't That's the reason you're back there. And for me as well, we used to, I think you recorded them, but the managers recorded punt catches. And I think my percentage over my career in practice was like, 99.2%, I caught balls. And that was important thing for me. And for folks at home, like I said, I muffed one. You muffed one. Was it? I was watching. My muff was Michigan State right before the half. Didn't mean anything, but I just fell on it. Never fumbled. But you outdistanced your dad in career average punt return yards per return.
Yeah.
Or you have a 10-yard average?
I think it's 11.
Oh, so it's 11.
2 returns.
Sorry, 11 yards. Yeah. No, I think mine's like 8. So kudos to that. But yeah, I'd love to maybe we'll write a book about punt returning. I know I talked to Brandon Corblum kicking about this sometimes, about just even the class of punt returns. And now with all these kickers and being able to kick these balls in different spirals and end over ends and the way they're magically moving these balls around, what more of a challenge it is, let alone the wind and the sun and the night and the 10 guys knocking it off. And I want to give credit to Jake Thaw here, because I know that he must have won the Rose Bowl, and he probably made one of the greatest plays in Michigan football history by maintaining his composure and getting that ball back into his control. And I will say that to everybody, that a lot of people will say, oh, he muffed it, but I say he probably made one of the greatest football plays. And if you're a football person, everybody understands what it takes to be focused through that whole play, and for him to secure that ball and to give us a chance to go down 99 yards, win that game. And that's just the perils of being a punt returner. But kudos to Jake Thaw for that. But
yeah, and another thing about Jake Thaw is that he was the most sure-handed punt returner I had ever seen in person, practice and all that. Like, he had the highest percentage out of anyone once he came onto the team. And so it was very uncharacteristic of him to drop it, but then it was his poise and under pressure to pick up that ball and secure it was incredible.
As you said earlier, adversity tests who you are, what type of player you are, and that certainly he passed with flying colors. And again, to the national championship. Without that play, we wouldn't have won a championship. So, and I remember when that happened, he got a lot of hate. And I said, dude, you made the greatest play of modern Michigan football history. And, you need JD to do his thing, Roman Wilson do his deal, all the deals. But that, it was a great thing. So.
If you like this kind of content, please like, share, follow, and subscribe. And as always, go Blue.